Even though the mainstream media have swept and swept and swept for Assassin's Creed Shadows and Ubisoft, it's to absolutely no avail whatsoever, because the failure of the game has claimed its ultimate victim. The person responsible for all of it has gone, and they didn't go willingly. Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Ubisoft Assassin's Creed Shadows, a game about a black protagonist, because of course the underlying current of racism within liberalism, which is there everywhere and will always exist, but they pretend it doesn't because they put flowery language like inclusive and diverse and all that kind of stuff to try and hide the fact that they're actually massive racists, failed miserably. This group of, well, what looks like exceedingly pasty-faced liberal wankers decided that they wanted to tell Japan that their history was racist and they needed to black it up. They needed to get their history with the current day inclusive and diverse program, and therefore it needed some splattering of color. And that came, of course, in the guise of Yasuke. And while Yasuke existed, it's in name only comparative to how they wanted to portray him in the game itself, as some huge bulking samurai that towered over these Asian counterparts, smashing them into oblivion. Won't somebody stop the Asian hate? Oh wait, that line vanished from history once they realized who was actually perpetrating the Asian hate. Strange how that happens, hey? Then stick him in a gay relationship with some of the most embarrassing dialogue you've probably heard in all your life, and you get current day Western game that fails miserably. And I mean miserably. Fantasy has given away to fetish, and instead of just getting a great story set in feudal Japan with a male Asian protagonist and a female Asian protagonist, instead we had to fetishize the black man in Japan and lift them up so this bunch of white liberals can look down on them and feel superior, like they themselves contributed to the rise. Just as long, of course, as the rise stayed beneath them. And it took just over 4 months for Ubisoft to announce that Assassin's Creed Shadows had hit 5 million players. Not sales, players. With likely the vast majority being on Game Pass, where they don't even have to pay for it, as sales were speculated to be somewhere in the region of 2.5 to 3.5 million, which was catastrophic for Ubisoft and catastrophic for this franchise, as this was the easiest layup that they had. The fans wanted this location, the fans wanted this era, all they had to do was deliver. And instead, they let politics get in the way of profit, which is the absolute curse of the Western gaming industry. Even Sucker Punch Productions, who made the massively popular Ghost of Tsushima game, and PlayStation have not announced any sales figures for Ghost of Yotai for some reason, even though they were happy to do it for its predecessor. What we do know is that it shifted about 125,000 copies in Japan on week 1. However, in week 2, that plummeted down to about 24,000. The drop-off was absolutely insane. But when you don't listen to your audience, when you push your ideology above what you should be doing, which is making profit, you get what you fucking deserve. So let's go to an absolutely garbage article from PC Gamer, who are trying desperately to sweep for Ubisoft here. Assassin's Creed franchise boss leaves Ubisoft just 7 months after heading up one of the best-selling games in the history of the series. It's not even fucking close to being one of the best-selling games in the history of the series. It's actually languishing right down at the bottom of the selling games in the Assassin's Creed franchise history. But Access Media are gonna access, and in this case, preferably Ubisoft's asshole. Ubisoft has confirmed that Assassin's Creed boss Mark Alexis Cotte has left Ubisoft after more than 20 years at the company. A stretch that saw him climb from a software engineer on PSP games to vice president, an exclusive producer of the Assassin's Creed franchise. Cotte's departure, initially reported by IGN, comes just 2 weeks after Ubisoft unveiled a new subsidiary called Vantage Studios that will be responsible for all future development of Assassin's Creed, as well as Far Cry and Rainbow Six. Yes, Tencent took all the franchises that they believed could still be profitable and then went, fuck you, to the rest of Ubisoft and set it adrift. That's what happened. Following the organizational restructuring announced in March, Mark has chosen to pursue a new path elsewhere outside of Ubisoft, a Ubisoft representative said in a statement provided to PC Gamer. Well, guess what, folks? It turns out that that was a load of bollocks, and Mark was fired from his job. But as I can hear you already crying, how can he be fired if Assassin's Creed Shadows was one of the, quote, best-selling games in the history of the series, according to PC Gamer? Well, dear viewer, that's because PC Gamer are full of shit. A day or so after the announcement of his departure, Mark actually decided to post this statement on his own volition. The past 24 hours have been deeply emotional. Reading all your public and private messages has reminded me of so many moments, people, and shared dreams from the past 2 decades. Well, I gotta say, Mark, that I've barely shared any dreams of any Ubisoft games in the past 2 decades for me, because Ubisoft have gone down the shitter. I have been archiving all of them, something to revisit one day when I am old, smiling at what we built together. Holy Jesus. From the messages of colleagues, friends, and fans, a reoccurring theme has emerged that I feel the need to clarify. Many of you have expressed surprise that I would choose to leave Assassin's Creed after so many years, especially given the passion I still hold for it. The truth is simple. I did not make that choice. I was fired because I failed at my job. I'm shit. I took the easiest layup in the history of Assassin's Creed. I then let the company start shouting at Japan about how they needed to become more stunning and brave. We then called all the potential customers racists and bigots and homophobes for not accepting gay black Yasuke samurai in the game. And hey presto, we fucked the game completely and it failed miserably. That is called a consequence of your leadership, of your actions. Ubisoft decided to transfer the leadership of the Assassin's Creed franchise to someone closer to its new organizational structure, probably somebody from Tencent who actually wants to make some money and therefore wants to put profit above your DEI, inclusion and diverse ESG crap, which you've been trying to champion for a while now because you're broken in the fucking head. A different position was mentioned, but it did not carry the same scope, mandate, or continuity with the work that had been entrusted with in recent years. They potentially gave you the option of a massive demotion to janitor so you could clean the toilets in the new Ubisoft offices. Never forget, folks, that my personal game of the year for 2025, which is Expedition 33, these are former Ubisoft developers who created this studio because they felt creatively stifled at Ubisoft. Something that I can fully understand, because I see Ubisoft as a company that hasn't moved forward at all in nearly 2 decades. I think the only game that I've enjoyed from them in that time was Far Cry 3, but then they just tried to rinse and repeat that gameplay all over again every single time. Nothing that I've seen from Ubisoft has screamed innovation or forward thinking or next gen. Nothing whatsoever. And yet, these guys and girls who actually wanted to be creative, they wanted to do a turn-based system, but with a modern spin, a modern slant, with a great story and great characters, smashed it out the park. That could have been you, Ubisoft. They could have been your employees working and doing stuff like that. But you had to put Assassin's Creed 58,000 out with zero innovation in the gameplay, rinse and repeat bollocks, and of course, in current day, with a huge smattering of ESG. Mark Alexis Cotte was fired from his job because he was bad at it. He had the easiest layup imaginable. All he had to do was make a game for everybody. And instead, they berated a country, they berated their potential audience, and they allowed politics to get in the way of making what would have been the most simple of profit. He deserved to go. I have no sympathy for him, and I would like to see a lot more of this in the future to get rid of the rot from the Western gaming industry. I'll see you in the next video. You take care. Goodbye, Blue.